The demand of a sacrificial lamb of women's rights to the Christo-fascists in America is both repulsive to me and all too familiar.
Trump is the new Adolf.
We messed up on this channel with the State of the Union last week when we did it live, and we wrapped up way too early, but I'd never went 2 hours live, and honestly, kudos to Biden, because I was getting pretty exhausted after 2 hours. Speaking of the live show, if you watch this video and you like it, make sure you subscribe. We have a great community here. If you want to support the channel even more, you've been here a while, you can become a member. Katie Britt, I'm not going to replay any of it because you've all seen it 100 times. You've seen it spoofed 500 times. That's not what this episode's going to be about. I actually wanted to make the video this weekend, but my wife dragged me out on a hike where a bug flew into my eye. True story. I swear to God, I don't have pink eye. I know how to wipe. A bug flew straight into my eye, and that's why it might be swollen. I hope it's not distracting. Should I wear glasses, sunglasses? I think that would be more distracting. I don't know. I say Katie Britt's performance, because that very much was a performance, is all too familiar for me being from Utah and witnessing how fundamentalist women view themselves and how they want to be viewed. The more submissive, more childlike they are, the better. Just for comparison, let's look at her normal voice.
I am looking forward to delivering the Republican response to the State of the
Normal
Union.
sounding woman.
Tune in.
President Biden's border policies are a disgrace.
You see?
This crisis is despicable. And the truth is, it is almost entirely preventable.
And thank you to all the gentlemen behind
Normal
me who
voice.
continue to work
Normal
diligently
woman.
to actually secure our border. That's what the American people deserve.
Likeable.
But unfortunately, Joe
I would
Biden
say
refuses
likeable.
to give that to them.
Actual human
Mr.
being.
President, enough is enough. Innocent Americans are dying, and you only have yourself to
Creepy,
blame.
right? To normal
Everything that we
people,
put
this
forth
is
that would
creepy.
actually secure and close the border, the Democrats don't want. This is yet another prong of the failed Bidenomics. This is the definition of America last.
The American people are scraping by, while President Biden proudly proclaims that Bidenomics is working.
I'm having flashbacks
Goodness,
of
y'all.
Mormon ladies,
Bless
so
his
I'm
heart.
going to cut off right here. And that's the creepy part. It's why people are rejecting this so handedly on both sides, because she could have just used her normal voice. She could have just talked to us as the American voting public. But it's this weird melodramatic, like I said, childlike, performance. But you have to understand what she's doing. She's playing into what Republicans are trying to bring back. What they're trying to make popular is this tradwife lifestyle. As crazy as it sounds, she's trying to act like that. She's trying to sound childlike, not in control of her emotions, because a woman talking to you, especially in an assertive manner, might come off as bossy, right? Or too masculine. As a wedding gift, one of my wife's family's friends tried to give her this book for a happy marriage. The book was called Fascinating Womanhood. And it said in order to have a happy marriage, you should approach your husband very childlike, very playfully like. And this will make your husband more caring towards you, more protective. My wife immediately threw that shit away, which is one of the reasons I love her. One of the many reasons I married her. The book even instructs that when you're fighting with your husband, to still try to be cute, to throw little tantrums, to cry, to be overly emotional. And like we saw Katie do in the side-by-side clips, you're supposed to avoid talking like a rational human being, right? Discussing stuff like adults. The whole book was basically emphasizing yourself to your husband. And the whole thesis of the book is to keep the patriarchy of the 1950s alive. Like, you don't want to come to your husband with facts, articulate your thoughts too well, because then it may seem like you are the head of the household. You appear to be a decision maker, maybe equal in the household, not bowing down to his authority. And the only time I wish Loretta would have kept the book is sometimes, just once in a while, I want her to make me up a sandwich. And the thing about it, these ideals are so powerful, they supersede even Christian women, Christian marriages. They'll make a 50-year-old black, gay, in-the-closet virgin find refuge in a party that is made up of, this is the base, where their candidate for president does literal shout-outs to them. Katie Britt is the first female to ever be elected a senator in Alabama's history. If you haven't set your clocks forward, it's 2024. But where does that first female ever elected to the Senate decide to have her rebuttal? In the kitchen. Apparently, Katie Britt's glass ceiling is when she hits her head ducking into the stove, making some meatloaf. The first thing out of Katie's mouth in her rebuttal, 11 seconds in, she tells you,
However, that's not the job that matters most. I am a proud wife and mom of 2 school-aged kids.
that's
My
the
daughter
job that
Bennett-
matters most. The job that matters most for Alabama's first female senator is being in the kitchen, being a housewife. And one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Tommy Tuberville, the other senator from Alabama, her co-worker, he echoes that sentiment.
She's a mom. She's a housewife. She's around people in a young age. And if you just see
She's a housewife. She's around people of a young age. And this tradwife culture is so perfect for where republicanism is at this point in our history. This woman has a job that only 1 out of 100 people in this whole country have. This woman's job as senator affects every single one of us. Every decision she makes can affect our lives for the rest of our lives. If, God forbid, the Republicans take the Senate next year, she will be there to choose another radical judge, another radical right-wing judge to put on the bench. But then she comes out and tells you that's not the job. That's not the job she's thinking about. She's just thinking about being in this kitchen, talking like a child, throwing fits like an emotional infant. That's dark to think about. And of course, Aunt Lydia steps in and stumps for her because they're pushing for Christian nationalism.
Hi, this is Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, we know.
And I'm excited
Oh, her
to
eye
support
kinda looks
my
like
good
mine.
friend Katie Britt
Wonder
to
if she
serve
got
as your
stabbed in
next
the eye.
U.S. Senator. Katie is a
she
strong
is at the
Christian
dinner table
conservative,
again, right?
and she'll fight tirelessly for the America First agenda. Katie will defend
So there
the
you go.
unborn, back the
Tradwife stands for traditional wife, which in America means you have to act like an unreasonable adult just to please your husband. And like I said, Tim Scott, someone who sees himself as less than Trump, right? Tim Scott came out and said, I can't really say what my accomplishments are. I can't campaign for myself. I'm much more comfortable campaigning for, the white guy running at the top of our party, the white nationalist running at the top of our party. Scott sees himself as less than in his own party because of his skin color and because of what they would consider his sexual deviance. And I would argue that Tim Scott takes on many of the characteristics of a trad wife. And just from my experience, I'll tell you what, the MAGA base of this party, a lot of them incels, they eat this up because the women are there to serve. I mean, let's call them what they are. They're there to serve these losers. And if you go on Twitter, they're very vocal about it, right? They tweet all the time about it. Some of them have become celebrities by being incels. And social media will make it seem like it's a trend, right? But all they're doing is syncing up the weakest men in this society. The ones with the most fragile ego. The ones who can't handle an equal woman. A strong woman. And for the most part, this new generation of women voters, the ones I meet, aren't about this life at all. They want their rights. They want to be able to have private discussions with a doctor without, Matt Gaetz, Lindsey Graham in the room with them. And unfortunately, people like Katie here, a destroyer of freedoms in this country, I've seen this version of her 1,000 times in Utah. In every single Mormon baby-making machine I know. The Republican Party is built on fear, and the cornerstone of that fear is persecution. It's been that way my entire life. So people like Katie here are fine taking a woman in Mexico's story, a story about being raped daily. They're perfectly fine with snatching that away from them and trying to spin it into political propaganda. Does it matter the story she's talking about didn't even take place under Biden? Didn't even take place under Obama. It took place under Bush. Does it matter the story she's talking about took place in Mexico, not the United States? Does it even matter that the bill she blocked, her own bill that she co-sponsored, but she blocked because Donald Trump told her to? Does it even matter that that story of the woman being raped daily in Mexico was only remedied, was only cured by allowing her into this country to be safe from that, to be free from that? Does that matter? And does it even matter that she took that woman's story, weaponized it, without even asking her if she could use it?
I have known Carla Jacinto since 2014. CNN profiled her story as part of CNN's Freedom Project, which seeks to raise awareness about modern-day slavery. Jacinto says she's very careful about who she gives her testimony to and how and when she does it. So she was very surprised, she told me, when she found out on Saturday that she was involuntarily put in the middle of a social media storm. This storm was
exactly
by what appears
to weaponize this white woman worth $47 million at her kitchen table.
Alabama Senator Katie Britt.
That's why it was stolen.
I reached out to Carla Jacinto in Mexico City for her reaction, and this is part of what she told me. At one point when I met you years and years ago, you told me that you felt like at the beginning Mexican politicians had taken advantage of you by using your story for political purposes. Do you feel like that happened once again here in the United States?
Yes, in fact, I hardly ever cooperate with politicians because it seems to me that they only want an image. They only want a photo. And that to me is not fair. I work as a spokesperson for many victims who have no voice, and I really would like them to be empathetic. All the governors, all the senators, to be empathetic with the issue of human trafficking, because there are millions of girls and boys who disappear all the time. People who are really trafficked and abused, as Senator Britt mentioned. And I think Senator Britt should first take into account what really happens before telling a story of that magnitude.
Carla Jacinto also told me that Senator Britt got many of the facts of her story wrong. First of all, Jacinto says that, one, she was not trafficked by Mexican drug cartels, but by a pimp that operated as part of a family that entrapped vulnerable girls in order to force them into prostitution. Two, she also said that she was never trafficked in the United States, as Senator Britt appeared to suggest. And three, she was kept in captivity from 2004 to 2008 when President George W. Bush, a Republican, was in office as opposed to the current administration, as the senator implied. And finally, she met the senator at an event at the border with other government officials and anti-human trafficking activists instead of a one-on-one. CNN has confirmed much of what Jacinto has said in prior reporting, and her story.
That right there is disgusting. This white woman worth $47 million with this show in her kitchen takes this woman's story, lies about it, sensationalizes it, tries to make it hers with this terrible, acting job, this melodrama. And not once did she even ask if she could share that woman's story or just bring the woman to share her own story. But no, she wants to attach it to her party. She wants to weaponize it. You keep asking, will the floor ever fall out on this Republican Party? And all they do is sink lower and lower.
I mean, this could have been my daughter.
But it wasn't.
This could have been yours.
But it wasn't.
Reverse your policies, end this crisis, and stop the suffering.
47 million.
Sadly.
Oh my God. What was that change? I know you've
Biden's
all seen this, but wow.
His reckless
when you see it change in real time,
our economy into a
it's
hole
something
and
else.
sent the
And honestly, I've seen better acting in porn than this chick's audition tape for Community Theater's rendition of The Handmaid's Tale or whatever the just watched was. And what we've seen is responses like this pose a big problem to the Republican Party.
May God bless you. And
look,
may
this
God
is real America voice. This is to the right of
bless
Fox News.
These United
Look at him at
States
the end of this
America.
speech. Charlie Kirk, Megyn Kelly, all your right-wingers all said it was terrible. Yeah, same. That's how we all felt.
I'm sure she's
I'm a fan of her.
I'm sure she's very nice. And
Yeah.
I don't want to get like over the top here. But that
Oof.
is everything about that on a night like tonight is wrong.
Everything about that is wrong. I agree, but not for the same reasons they do. Britt was only being a bullhorn for an ideology, a party that is so out of touch with American culture at this point. All she was doing was showing everyone else, all this new generation of women who have lefts, rights, and their grandmas. All she was doing was showing you how the Republican Party wants you to act and how they want you to think of yourself. And like it or not, Biden nailed the State of the Union. He really did. He was great. Instead of a rebuttal, this acts so much as a reflection of that. You now get to see the extremism that has not only taken root, but taken over the entire Republican Party. And when you're a woman in that party who champions herself to be for women's rights, to protect women like Nancy Mace has, this poses a big problem for you. First and foremost, all Nancy Mace wants to be is a celebrity. She makes her staff run out and get her 9 bookings. She demands at least 9 bookings on 9 news shows. Well, I say news, but mostly Fox, each week. She is so desperate to be on TV. You remember when she wrote a Scarlet A on her because she's kicking McCarthy out of the House? I mean, does she not know what the Scarlet A is for? Or was she begging McCarthy? I still don't know to this day. Nancy Mace says she was raped when she was 16 years old. I believe her. Donald Trump was found by a jury to have raped a woman. Not only raped her, but then defamed her for years. And still, to this day, defame her.
Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just
He doesn't have to
posted
worry
a
about that anymore.
$91 million bond, 91 million, on a fake story, totally made up story.
Maybe don't rape.
Think of it.
Look, he's doing it again. See what I mean? E.G. Carroll could ask him for more money again.
Normally, 91 million, based on false accusations made about me by a woman.
False
that I knew nothing
accusations.
about,
Get on it,
didn't know,
E.G.
never
Carroll.
heard of.
You
I
are
know
going to
nothing
own
about her.
Mar-a-Lago
She wrote a
by
book,
the
she
time
said
this is
things.
done.
And when I denied it, I said, it's so crazy, it's false. I got sued for defamation. That's
Get
where it
ready, big
starts.
boy. Now, asking Nancy Mace, a woman who uses her rape story to shelter herself from criticisms of supporting Trump, why that is not a juxtaposition. Why those two things aren't in conflict.
Yes, this morning. And you've endorsed
Remember
Donald
when I
Trump
said,
for president.
persecution is the cornerstone
judges
of the
and 2
Republican
separate
Party?
juries have found him liable for
Fear
rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. How do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw?
Well, I will tell you, I was raped at the age of 16. And any rape victim will tell you, I've lived for 30 years with an incredible amount of shame over being raped. I didn't come forward because of that judgment and shame that I felt. And it's a shame that you will never feel, George. And I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me about another potential rape victim. I'm not gonna do that.
It's actually not about shaming you. It's a question about Donald Trump.
No, you are shaming me.
You've endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Right.
Persecution.
Donald Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury. Donald Trump has been found liable for defaming the victim of that rape by a jury. It's been affirmed by a judge.
It was not a criminal court case, number one. Number two,
I guess.
I live with shame. And you're asking me a question about my political choices, trying to shame me as a rape victim, and I find it disgusting. And quite frankly, E. Jean Carroll's comments when she did get the judgment, joking about what she was going to buy, it makes it harder for women to come forward when they make a mockery out of rape,
This doesn't
when
make
they
it
joke
harder for
about
people to
it.
come forward.
Doesn't it make it
it's not
harder for
okay.
women to come forward when they
It makes it harder when other women joke about it, and she's joked about it. I find it offensive. And I also find it offensive that you're trying to shame me with this question.
I'm not trying to shame you
at all.
In fact,
I have dealt with this for 30 years. You know how hard it was to tell my story 5 years ago when they were doing a fetal heartbeat bill and there were no exceptions for rape, incest, or rape or incest in there?
The guy?
I had to tell my story
Who
because
made that
no other woman was
possible?
coming
Just
forward.
answer the question,
no rape
Nancy
victims were
Mace.
represented. And you're trying to shame me this morning.
I'm
just
just
I find it offensive,
all
and
the
this
way
is why
down.
women
That's
won't
all
come
they
forward.
do.
Women won't come forward because they're defamed by those who perpetrate rape. Donald Trump
They are judged and they're shamed. And you're trying to shame me this morning. I think it's disgusting.
I'm not shaming you at all.
I told my story. It took me 25 years to tell my story. I was judged for it. I still get judged for it today.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
She accuses Carol of using rape as a joke, and then simultaneously uses it to play a victim to get out of a legitimate question. Why would someone who was raped support a rapist? It's not a gotcha question. It's something with anyone who would have an ounce of character, who's not sending their staff out 9 times a week to get on every TV show they can, could answer. This is a quote from Thomas Paine from The Age of Reason. Thomas Paine is T-Paine's cousin, if you don't know. Infidelity does not consist in believing or disbelieving. It consists in professing to believe what he does not believe. It is impossible to calculate the moral mischief, if I may so express it, that mental lying has produced in society. I want you to think of Nancy Mace as I finish this quote out. When a man has, or woman, when a woman has so far corrupted and prostituted the chastity of her mind as to subscribe her professional belief to things she does not believe, she has prepared herself for the commission of every other crime. Not just Nancy Mace, the entire Republican Party. Thomas Paine summed them up 200 years ago, 300 years ago. And as the world gets to see this subculture of fundamentalism, I've been saying for years that Utah should, switch places with Georgia. Utah belongs in the South because they hold the same fundamentalist, the same crazy right wing, wanting theocratic nationalism in this country. They all hold it. Even the Catholics now, my in-laws who are Catholic, the Catholics have even moved so far right. How could the Catholics move even more far right? They have, just to compete with how batshit your evangelicals, your Mormons are in this day and age. Per capita, Utah has the highest users of antidepressants. Meth. They download more porn in Utah per capita than anywhere in the world. And growing up there, I've seen firsthand how this fundamentalism, this role-playing they're forced to do inside these families affect the women, affect the kids, and even affect the men. Having left Utah 20 years ago, left that phony bullshit behind, the phony role-playing, the phony smiles, having left that, the last thing I want is to have that fundamentalism baked in to our country as a whole. I'm sorry you had to look at my weird eye through this episode. Hopefully no pus came out. Ew, disgusting. Maybe I'll have to put it in black and white. If you like content like this, you shouldn't like content like this. It's terrible what's happened to our country. But if you like me reacting to terrible things, talking about terrible things, make sure you like and subscribe. That's a terrible pitch, by the way. But if you like being here, we have a great community. Get down in the chats. Tell me what you think. And I'll see you next time. The Chud Report.
We see you. We hear you. And we stand with you.